people, the wise versus the foolish. So let's read verse 1. A soft answer turns away wrath, but harsh words stir up anger. Wise people will employ wisdom to turn away wrath, even in a situation where anger will be and emotions will be flaring. But harsh words stir up anger. So there are times when things are so hard that you just need to be solved. A soft answer. And that's wisdom, because wisdom, the Bible said, let us show our wisdom in the gentleness of wisdom. Wisdom is gentle, and gentleness is soft. The tongue of the wise uses knowledge rightly, but the mouth of fools pours out foolishness. The eyes of the Lord are in every place, beholding the evil and the good. Now this is one thing that he's very clear on. Let me combine this verse 2 and verse 3. The tongue of the wise uses knowledge rightly. A wise person uses their knowledge rightly. You don't use your knowledge to judge others. You use your knowledge to teach others, to bring them to the level of understanding. Oftentimes, I have told my friends that I've seen people very judgmental. And we become so judgmental because we are using our knowledge to judge others. But I have a question. Do those people that you are judging, are those people that you are judging having or in possession of the same knowledge that you have? If they don't have the knowledge that you have, your judgment is misplaced. First of all, give people the knowledge. And then after you have known that they have the knowledge. And this is, by the way, this is the reason why I've been telling people I've never seen a bad boy and I've never seen a bad girl. I've only seen ignorant ones. Because some of the young people that people thought were rotten merchandise, I sit with these young people. I have gone to school speaking to thousands of young people. I speak to hundreds of thousands of young people in this country and in other countries annually. And I have gone to places, I've gone to schools where, like, for example, by the time they introduce you, you see just total misbehavior among students. But do you know what? As I stand on the stage and I start speaking to these young people and I dive into their world and I speak to them from the point of a person who loves them, and I just dislodge all those nasty things that are in their mindsets, these young people turn around and they just become the best. Yesterday I went to into a restaurant and I found a principal of a high school, and this guy was introducing me to other people in the hotel, and he says, this guy, you invite him to your school to speak to the students, and you will have a totally different school at the end of his talk. And they say, we always talk to these students, but we don't have this impact. But my question is, how do you change people that you don't like? And many times people talk to others from a holier than thou platform or standpoint. Holier than thou. So it is like, you young men of this generation, you young men of this time, of this age, these current young people, you have your problems. You're average time. But if you dive into their world and then bring them out with the knowledge and the love of God, it is going to amaze you. I read a book in the 90s, and this book was written by a man called Schumacher. And Schumacher says that in every human heart, there is a sanctuary. And the only way to enter that sanctuary is through the persuasion of love. When you use love to penetrate the hearts of people, you can turn the most stubborn, you can turn around the most unreasonable person, for as long as that person realizes that you genuinely love them, you can so easily win them. A wholesome tongue is a tree of life, but perverseness in it breaks the spirit. So a person who has words that are full of grace, those words are like a tree of life. You speak things to your children, and you speak things to your husband or to your wife, and because your tongue is wholesome, your tongue is full of the grace of God. Anyone who listens to you and hears your words just receives life. But perverseness in it breaks the spirit. If you are perverse in your tongue, you break even those people who were excited to do great things, just because of how perverse you are. A fool despises his father's instruction, but he who accepts correction is prudent. Anyone who accepts correction is prudent, but a fool despises his father's instruction. In the house of the righteous is much treasure, but trouble is in the income of the wicked. The lips of the wise disperse knowledge, but the heart of the foolish does not do so. The sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination to the Lord, but the prayer of the upright is his delight. When the wicked bring their offering, it's so that people may see that they have brought their offering. Like the way you have seen the politicians in Kenya behave. They would like to come to a church service and parade their monies. And yet some of these guys their monies are ill-gotten. And God doesn't receive those offerings. We may clap for them. We might shout a lot of hallelujahs for them. But God doesn't even recognize anything from what they are doing. But the prayer of the righteous, the upright, is the delight of God. God delights in the worship and the prayer of the righteous. The way of the wicked is an abomination to the Lord, but he loves the one who follows after righteousness. Correction is grievous to him who forsakes the way, and he who hates reproof will die. So here the warning is, if you cannot receive correction, how many people have been sacked just because by their employer because they don't follow instructions? How many people? How many children are living like vagabonds, yet their siblings and their parents are there? Their parents have opened their arms to receive them, but because they are rebellious, they are disobedient, they are living like vagabonds. And yet their brothers and sisters, their siblings, are enjoying life just because of their own arrogance. Sheol and destruction are before the Lord. How much more then the hearts of the children of men? A scoffer does not love the one who reproves him, nor will he go to the wise. If you want to know whether you are going to succeed or not, ask yourself, do you normally receive correction? And what kind of company do you have? Do you have the company of wise people who speak into your life and speak life into your life? Or you're just with a group of people with whom you discuss nonsense? You laugh and discuss just nonsense. It is important for you to find someone who confronts you. The Bible tells us, better a rebuke from a friend or a slap from a friend than flattery from the enemy, from those who are false friends. A merry heart makes a cheerful countenance, but sorrow of heart, the spirit is broken. So, in biology they tell us that you take less energy to smile than to frown. People who frown use a lot of their muscle energy, and that is why they grow old faster. They come up, their faces, the wrinkles and everything, and they look like old people just because they are ever frowning. And so we are told here, let me read this. A merry heart makes a cheerful countenance. If your heart is happy, your countenance is just lively. Your appearance, your facial expression, your body language, your everything just shows the joy that it is in your heart. But by sorrow of the heart, the spirit is broken. If your heart is sorrowful, your spirit is broken, and it will be seen on your face. The heart of him who has understanding seeks knowledge, but the mouth of fools feeds on foolishness. While a wise person wants wisdom every day, a foolish person keeps on eating and feeding himself and drinking foolishness. All the days of the afflicted are evil, but he who is of merry heart has a continual feast. Better is a little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure with trouble. Better is a dinner of harps where love is than fattened oaks with hatred. Now, what the psalmist, Solomon is saying is that better be in a house where people are just eating vegetables, and yet there is love. You are eating vegetables and there is love. You are valued. In a house where they are eating vegetables and they love you, than a house where there is meat. They eat lots of meat and yet there is no love. There is hatred. There is oppression. A wrathful man stirs up strife, but he who is slow to anger appeases strife. Now, this one tells us of the environment that is created by people who are easily angered. So he says, an easily angered person stirs up strife. Why do we have guerrilla movements in countries? Why do we have insurrections in countries? It's because people are angry. So anger stirs up strife in a nation. Anger stirs up strife in a relationship. Anger stirs up strife in the family. Anger is a terrible cancer. It destroys. Then he goes on and he says, but he who is slow to anger appeases strife. In a country, as the leader of the country, as the president, as the prime minister, as the commander of the armies of your country, you need to be a man that does not demonstrate anger and reveal anger, and you should not stir up anger among the people of your country. You should not put a wedge between the people of the country, whether on race line or party line or religious lines. You should never do that as a leader, because you will destroy the country. You should never do that as a father, because you will destroy your family. You should never do that as a husband. You will destroy your marriage. Or your wife, you will destroy your marriage. You shouldn't in any way allow anger to take preeminence in your family or in your place of work. Let me repeat verse 18 again. A wrathful man stirs up strife. A man of anger stirs up strife. But he who is slow to anger appeases strife. The way of the slothful man is a hedge of thorns, but the way of the righteous is a highway. Now, a slothful person always sees obstacles. A lazy man will give you 101, 1,000,001 reasons why they didn't do what they ought to have done. But a wise man, but a righteous man, a man who is diligent in his work, will always see a highway where even in the midst of trouble, in the midst of obstacles, a man of faith, a righteous man, will still see the way. You remember that song by Don Moen? God will make a way where there seems to be no way. And that's what God says in his word. He's a God who makes a way where there is no way. He's a God who divides the water for you to pass through. There is no situation too difficult for you, my dear friend. If only you can hang in on God, trust in him, put your trust in him, meaning run for refuge in God. Run for refuge in God. God is going to do it for you. Let me repeat this verse again. I like the way, in fact, it's like I'm reading it for the first time. He says, the way of the slothful man is a hedge of thorns, but the way of the righteous is a highway. The way of the righteous is a highway. So, this is something that we need to really, really impress on. This is something that we need to look at. And really, lazy people, slothful people, people who are lazy, who are not ready to work, will always give you a reason as to why they are not working. They are always having excuse. While you are making excuse, like you have graduated from university, from college, and you are ever saying, we don't have jobs, are you aware that there are people that you graduated with that went and worked for someone, got some little cash, and began their own business, and their business is blooming, and they are now even employing others? While you are seeing obstacles and you think, in these COVID days, in these COVID times, economy is terrible, things are not going to work. Aren't you aware that even in these COVID times, there are people who are prospering? Because they are working, because they are trusting in God, because their trust is in God, and God is causing things to happen for them. A wise son makes a glad father, but a foolish man despises his mother. A wise son makes his father glad, but a foolish man despises his mother because he cannot do what is right. Verse 21. Folly is joy to him who lacks wisdom, but a man of understanding walks uprightly. Foolish people, whenever they do things from their foolishness and folly, for that matter, they care less. They care less. To them, it's just a joy to continue living like that in their foolishness. Now, verse 22. I love this verse 22. It says, without consultations, plans are frustrated, but in the multitude of counselors, they are established. There are so many people with great ideas. With great ideas, great ideas, but they do not have the right counsel. If you have an idea, seek for counsel. There are people outside there that have the counsel that will turn your idea into full fruition, and you will see the glory of God. You just need the counsel of other people, and particularly those who have succeeded and excelled in the thing that you want to do. People whose lives, you look at their lives, and their lives are a sequence of success. You need to go to these people People who have gone through difficult times, but still they overcome and they are victorious. They are on top of it. You need such a men and women as your counselors. Let them speak in your life. Otherwise, your plans will always be frustrated. I like the language that is being used here. Plans are frustrated for lack of counsel. You may have the best plans on earth, but if you don't have the right counsel, those plans will never, ever come to fruition. A man has joy by the answer of his mouth, and how good is a timely word. Speaking the word in its season is very powerful. The way of life leads upward for the wise, so that he may turn away from Sheol below. The Lord will destroy the house of the proud, but he will establish the boundary of the widow. The thoughts of the wicked are an abomination to the Lord, but the words of the pure are pleasant. He who is greedy for gain troubles his own house, but he who hates bribes will live. Now here we are being told that corruption affects your family. Don't enjoy corrupt proceeds, because corrupt proceeds will affect your family. They will not only affect you, they will affect your children. So you had better shun all forms of corruption. The thoughts of the wicked are an abomination to the Lord, but the words of the pure are pleasant. He who is greedy for gain troubles his own house, but he who hates bribes will live. The heart of the righteous studies how to answer, but the mouth of the wicked pours out evil things. Now here we're being told that a wise person considers his answer before he gives it. A wise person sits down, evaluates his answer, and asks himself or herself, is this answer prudent enough? Is this answer gracious enough to the person that has asked? If they make a comment, their comments are normally well thought. And this is exactly what we ought to be. The Lord is far from the wicked, but he hears the prayers of the righteous. The cheerful look rejoices the heart, and a good report makes the bones fat. Now, this is on this good report makes the bones fat. This is something that many leaders, I believe one of the reasons why many leaders die of heart problems is because most leaders only hear negative reports. Their members of staff are always coming up with a problem. The people around them, if in politics you attend a meeting and the people around the political leader are always talking about problems. Only recently I was teaching leaders, 86 leaders from this division of ours. And I was talking to them about the dangers of the leader feeding yourself with negative reporting, allowing yourself to be fed on negative reporting, no praise report. And human beings somehow are more excited to give you negative reports than to give you praise reports. It is important as a leader sometimes to demand that people who work with you learn to provide the praise reports. In every organization, we have things that are happening that are good. In every home, there are things that are happening that are good. But if we only set our eye on what is negative, we are going to destroy our health. We remain tensed, we remain anxious just because we are always hearing negative reports. When we send out teams to go and evangelize, I want them to come back and tell us that how many people got saved. I don't want them to come and tell me how they went to a certain house and this guy was like an atheist and he insulted them and told them terrible things. But always, many times, I should say, people will come back with a negative report. Oh, we went, and they're not even remembering the report of how God healed, how an alcoholic was delivered from alcoholism. They are not realizing how a sinner gave their life to Jesus Christ. They only want to concentrate on what negative things that were spoken against them. I wouldn't like to see leaders crushed down because of negative reporting that come from people around them. A cheerful look rejoices the heart, and a good report makes bones fat. The ear that hears the reproof of life abides among the wise. He who refuses instruction despises his own soul, but he who hears correction receives understanding. The fear of the Lord is the instruction of wisdom, and before honor is humility. So we end this chapter 15 by this verse 3. The fear of the Lord is the instruction of wisdom. So do you want to be instructed in wisdom? You must have the fear of the Lord. You must revere the Almighty God. You must honor God. You must give God prominence and preeminence in your life. And then he says, before you gain honor, there must be humility. This makes us remember, it causes me to remember this verse that says that God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. The Lord bless you and the Lord watch over you. Let us meet again together tomorrow as we continue with chapter 16.
Thank you for joining us today. Catch us tomorrow, same time, same place.